Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. How are we doing out there? How are we doing? Hope we all are having a blessed Sabbath. I hope that we are taking care of ourselves. Of course, you know this COVID thing is still plaguing us. I hope that we had a great feast day or feast week with Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, and so forth last week and the week before. So what we're going to do is let me change a few things, and we're going to get started on today's topic, which is the Split Kingdom series. I'm going back into that where we're going to deal with King Assad. But first we're going to talk about the 10 Commandments, and then we'll go off into the books of the Bible, followed by today's topic, all right? Let me change some things up, and we'll start up. So let's first start off with the 10 Commandments. I know it's been a couple of weeks, but let's first start off with the 10 Commandments. All right, so first and foremost, hold on. Let me do something. Can y'all tell me how my sound is before we start? Shabbat shalom, Sister Gabby. Can you tell me how my sound is, please? Can y'all hear me? Volume too low. All right, thanks, Harry. Let me adjust that volume. Sam hit us up. Let's see something. How about now? Can you hear me? A little better? Let me see something. How about now? How about now? Can y'all hear me? Okay. All right, that's good. All right. So, yep. Okay, so let's start this. Thanks for the feedback, too. All right, thanks for the feedback. All right, so we're going to get started. 10 Commandments. First and foremost, You shall have no other gods before me. All right, what can be considered some other gods?
Clothes.
Clothes.
Yourself.
Of course, yourself.
Toys.
You got toys, right? So pretty much anything that we put our effort into more than the Most High can become our God, right? So you shall have no other gods before me. Not necessarily talking about something physical that we bow down to, but anything that's in heart more important than the Most High. That's what it's talking about. Anything, right? That you worship in the heart, that you put more effort and time into more than the Most High, right? This one here is more talking about an idol, all right? So you shall not make for yourself any graven images, all right? So you got any examples that you can remember of graven images, Daquan?
Buddha statue.
Say it again.
Buddha statue.
Like a Buddha statue, right? A Buddha statue. You notice they got, so it's a image that's made by hands that people bow down to and worship. So we're not supposed to make any graven image and bow down to that graven image as well. All right. You shall not misuse the name of Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall not misuse the name of Yahuwah. How can you misuse the Most High's name?
By making a vow and not upholding it.
Making a vow in his name and not upholding it. And see right here, what they showing is her being in traffic and, misusing the Most High's name in that way. Well, biblically, when we talk about the Bible, it's talking more about misusing his name in regards to making a vow in his name and it being false, or making a vow in his name and not completing what you made a vow, like the mission that you made, like if you made a vow in his name, not completing that. You know what I mean? Like if you make a vow and you swear in his name and say you're going to do something and you don't do it, then that's the misuses of his name. You know what I mean? And this is why the law talked about, offering up a sacrifice if you forget once making a vow. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's how you misuse the Most High's name. And then also let me put more emphasis on this is when you are trying to convince somebody. Say if you're trying to tell me that something is true, and I say no, I don't believe you, and then you be like, you swear in his name, right? That it is true, but it's really false. That's the misusage of his name. You know what I'm saying? Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. How can we keep the Sabbath day holy? Pray.
Read your Bible.
You can read. What else?
Watch VeggieTales.
You can watch VeggieTales.
And rest.
You can rest. Right? And mainly, we want to make an effort to come together, okay? Because the Sabbath is considered a holy convocation, okay, according to Leviticus 23, all right? So we want to make a serious effort to come together. So I know some days we may, especially for those people that work, all right, not necessarily for you and younger kids, but for those that work, we talking about those that's adults may need that day of rest. You know what I mean? They may need that rest. But ultimately, we want to come together because it's considered a holy convocation. I'm going to read this real quick out of Leviticus 23. There's Leviticus 23 and one second. Leviticus 23. We'll start at 1. And it says, And Yahuwah spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of Yahuwah, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. So this chapter is mainly talking about Yahuwah's holy convocations. Remember we talked about that, me and you? And it says, verse 3, 6 days, now it's about to talk about the Sabbath. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. So it's talking about the Sabbath being a holy convocation. All right.
Right.
What does convocation mean? You remember that?
Convocation mean coming together.
Coming together, right? It means right. So shall be a holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of Yahuwah in all your dwellings. So it's supposed to be us coming together. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we want to get rest too if we can, but ultimately we need to be serving Yah. We need to be resting from things outside of doing His will, like work, like school, which would be your work. You know what I mean? Housework, whatever is considered separate from doing the Most High's will. We can do His work. We can go help some people that's unfortunate. We can go and give to the poor, those type of things. But when we're talking about work, we're talking about our work, working in the fields or going to work, our 9 to 5, or going to school, right? So that's how you keep the Sabbath holy. Of course, you want to keep your mind focused in the Word, or you want to watch maybe some stories that deal with the stories of the Bible. Watch some cartoons or movies. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Even though sometimes they be false, but that's all right. You know, some of the cartoons that we watch don't always be predicated upon the Bible. They be like, yeah, it'd be like certain stories, like how we watch Joseph, right? Joseph ain't all the way about the Bible. Joseph, the King of Dreams. All right, remember I was showing you that? So anyway, let's go forward. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land Yahuwah your Elohim is giving you. Now, while it is mentioning honoring your father and your mother so you can live long in the land, that commandment is still important today because we're not necessarily in the land. So with that being said, how can we honor our father and mother?
Listen to them.
Listen to them. And what else?
Follow the directions.
Follow the directions. What is other ways we can honor them besides listening to them and what about, go ahead.
Give them gifts.
We can give them gifts and show them that you love them and you respect them and stuff like that, right? Go ahead.
And do not have a fallout against your parents.
I can't say not to have a falling out because sometimes being realistic, sometimes a son and a daughter may have a falling out with their mother and father. But what I would recommend, and what should be not just a recommendation, I mean, this is another way you honor your father and mother is by not slandering their name when it happens. So you don't go to your friends and start talking bad about all their business and going up and down as a talebearer because now you're breaking another law, you know what I mean? And now you dishonoring your parents at that point. You see what I'm saying? Because you disrespecting them by talking about their business in the house and you talking bad about your parents. That's slander. And it should not happen against your parents. You still love your parents, and then guess what? You still got to go home after you done talked all of this stuff under their roof. You see that? So that's not the way to go. Right? Now, if you got certain friends that will give you some serious advice, I guess you can talk about your problem, but not disrespect your parents. You want to keep your family, your mother and father with a good name. You see what I'm saying? That's the point I'm making about saying all of that. So we're talking about honoring our father and mother. We're talking about keeping them with a good name. You know, when they taught you righteous things, when people ask you, where did you learn that from? Guess what? That's a chance for you to give them a good name by saying my mother and father taught me. You know what I mean? I learned this from over here. That's how you honor your mother and father or your guardian or whoever. You know what I mean? All right? You shall not murder. You shall not murder. What is murder?
Murder is somebody that you talk to and someone talks bad about you and then you feel something inside that you're about to do something wrong and you're about to get a murdering weapon and you're about to murder someone.
Yeah, so what happens, so what you're describing is basically like if you have an altercation with somebody and you don't like what they said, you go home and you think about it, then you say, I don't like what he said to me. I'm gonna kill that person. And you go back and you kill that person. You get your gun, you go back and you shoot him, right? That is murder, right?
Yeah.
That's murder. What if it was the other way around and they didn't like what you said and they decided to come do something to you, but only you end up killing them? That's called self-defense. So it's a difference. Somebody died, yeah, but that's not murder. You see what I'm saying? That's not murder. So we got to know the difference. Just because somebody died does not mean that it's murder. Right? It's all about how the things happened, how the events happened that led to the person dying. Sometimes the Bible describes something happening where somebody might mistakenly get killed. Like they may be working and they cut down, they cut something down and they fall on a person or something like that. See, when you describe that, when you talk about that, that's accidental. You know, that's not murder. That's something, they died, but it's not murder. I didn't intend on doing. My intention was not to harm you. I didn't cut the tree down hoping that it fell on you. You see what I'm saying? I cut the tree down because it was working. You got in the way. Maybe it was some miscommunication. I didn't let you know that the tree was falling your way, and you didn't see it because you was working. And then that's how that happened. You end up falling, a tree ended up falling on you. That don't mean I didn't love and respect you. You know, it's just miscommunication. You see what I'm saying? And that's where a person would have to be, because a jealous family member and angry family members, they would have to be sent into a whole nother land, because that wasn't classified. That wasn't murder. It wasn't classified as murder. You see what I'm saying? Versus somebody attack you and do some bodily harm to you, that is murder. All right? You shall not commit adultery. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not commit adultery. Right here, right? What is adultery for the woman?
Okay. Adultery for a woman.
And take your time, give me the answer. I want you to give it to me.
All right.
Make sure you learn this. What is adultery for a woman?
Adultery for a woman is when a woman sneaks out of her marriage and go with another man that committed adultery.
Right. So, and go with another man, that's committing adultery. Right? So when a woman leaves her marriage, or she decides that she's going to go and be with another man, that's adultery. Not leave her marriage as in she divorced him, but leave her marriage as in she go and be with another man, right? She's not leaving her marriage, but she's going to be with another man in regards to having sex with that man, and that's adultery, right? Because she's stepping out on her husband. Shalom, shalom. How you doing? You all right? Pretty good, pretty good. Good to see you, Rock. So that's adultery for a woman, all right? Adultery for a man is, or adultery for a woman is this also. She's single. She lays with another. Well, no, that's not adultery for. No, that's fornication. No, let me correct myself. No, I'm getting it mixed up. But that's adultery for a woman, the first part. But let's talk about adultery for the man. What's adultery for a man?
All right. Adultery for a man is when a man divorces her old wife for no reason, and he gets a new wife. That's committing adultery.
That's committing adultery. That's committing adultery. And adultery for a man also, that's what the part I got mixed up. What I was trying to say earlier is this. A man that's single lays with another man's wife.
Or a married man.
Right. Well, see, no. A single man laying with a married man's wife. Like laying with a woman that's married. Yeah. That's adultery. I'm saying
a married man sleeping with a married woman.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. That's another one. Yeah, a married man sleeping with another married woman. That's adultery. Yes, that is. He's right. So, yes, it is. Yeah. So those situations are adultery. We could talk about that more, but that's adultery. You know what I mean? All right. You shall not steal. You shall not steal. You shall not steal. Right? So right here, we don't know if this woman is rich or poor. It doesn't really say in the picture, but what it shows is that she's looking to see if there is a clerk watching her, right? Mm-hmm. And so what if she was rich? I mean, I don't know why a rich person would steal, but then again, yes, I do. It's, people got their own demons. But what if she's poor, though? Is it all right for her to steal?
No.
It's no exception, right? If she's rich, there's no exception, right? So what should she have done?
She could have asked.
She could have asked, right? She could have asked. Some people fear rejection, so they'll go and steal. We got to not fear rejection. You know what I'm saying? We got to make sure that if we doing bad, we ask. There's no exception to this rule. Thou shalt not steal. Don't matter if you poor, no matter if you're rich, whatever. Thou shalt not steal. Right? You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. What does the word neighbor mean?
Neighbor means, in Israelite, means family.
It means family. When you're talking about in terms of the Bible, Shabbat Shalom, when you're talking about in terms of the Bible, it means family, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So that's what a neighbor is, right? Talking about different breakdowns of family, father and son. Example of that would be David and Absalom. David was told after he sinned with Uriah the Hittite's wife, committing adultery, that his wife, his neighbor would sleep with his wives. That neighbor ended up being his son Absalom, who tried to steal the kingdom from him. Right? Remember that? All right. So that's an example of that. So that word neighbor. Now we're talking about bearing false witness. So you see a man here, that's the owner of the house. And you see a couple guys here, one holding a baseball bat and the other is a man. He is getting blamed. He actually did it, though. And he's blaming him. He's bearing false witness. All right? And that could lead to death. Now, usually, and I guess I'll have to go over some of this stuff with you on a later time, but what will happen is the judges of Israel would, if somebody, number one, you're supposed to have 2 or 3 witnesses. But if somebody tried to lie on another individual and they got caught lying, bearing false witness, the same penalty that they tried to give to the one party, they would receive. So if I tried to lie on you and I got caught lying, you know what would happen? I would get put to death because I bear false witness on you. You see what I'm saying? So say if I caught you in adultery, right? Well, if I caught you in the act of adultery and they find out that's a lie, well, adulterers was getting put to death. So I would get put to death because I decided to bear false witness on your name and defile your name. You see that? The last one. You shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. You shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. Now you see a woman here, she's looking at, now the word neighbor is more dealing with family, right? Mm-hmm. So you shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. What if this was her brother or her sister's house and they got the same mother and father? What does coveting mean?
Coveting means to lust after someone's possessions.
To lust after someone's possessions, right? So if it means to covet, lust after someone's possessions, this is her sister. Why not just ask? So what's happening is she's coming up, in her heart, she want her sister's possessions. And then what's going to end up happening is she's going to come up with a plan to go and steal and to break other commandments, kill even, for this house and this car. So that's why covenant is very important. All these commandments is very important, but when you start to really think about coveting, it starts in the heart. And it can lead to you breaking all these other commandments. It can lead to you breaking other commandments. You know what I'm saying? If you're not careful, right? Because let's play with this for a second. If she covets, and she really wants that possession, so now she's going to kill, to steal that person's possessions. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And if she killed to steal, when the law enforcement come to her, she swear on, like she got to go to court, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what they do when you go to court? You got to swear before you give your testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And if you swear, now you swearing in Yah's name. You see what I'm saying? Now you defiling his name. You swearing in his name.
Mm-hmm.
They make you, put your right hand up like you making an oath. Like, look at that. So you see how you defile in his name? You see how you break the commandments?
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. And this country and these people in this country is notorious for doing that. All right? So those are the 10 commandments. Let's talk about some books of the Bible. We'll just kind of run through the different sections. We got the law, right? What's the law? What books is in the law?
That would be easy. Genesis, Exodus,
Numbers,
Leviticus,
Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
That's the books of the law. Good job.
Thank you.
What about the poetry, the writings? You know them? Name one book, and I'll show you if you're on the path. What's one book?
Job,
yes. Keep going. Job. You should know. You should know at least one. You should know at least one. It's all right, because for sake of time. All right, so you got Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon. Okay? So you got those that's a poetry or the writings, law. You got history in the Old Testament. Shabbat Shalom. You got the history in the Bible, right? And you got Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, right? Major prophets, you got Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations. You have Ezekiel and Daniel. Lamentations was written by Jeremiah. After he was the prophet, Jeremiah was the prophet when the children of Israel was getting ready to go into Babylonian captivity. They was getting ready to go into captivity. Once they went, Lamentations, because, they actually went into captivity, right? So both of these is written by Jeremiah, Lamentations, okay? Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Right, those are the minor prophets, right? Right, those are the minor prophets. Let's go New Testament. So we're just going to breeze through it. Gospels is Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. We got the one history book is the book of Acts. Okay? We're talking about the Acts of the Apostles, but mainly Paul, but the Acts of the Apostles for the most part. Then you got the epistles to churches, which is the church at Rome, which is the Romans, 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians, the church at Corinth. You have the Galatians, the church around the area in Galatia. You have the church, you have the Ephesians, the church at Ephesus, right? You have the Philippians, the church at Philippi. This was a little country in that area, right? This was a little church in the land of Philippi, right? Colossians, you're talking about the church at Colossae. And you have 1 Thessalonians and 2 Thessalonians. There was a little area called Thessalonica where a church was. All right, all these churches was made up of Jews and Gentiles, okay? You have the epistle to his friends. In 1 Timothy, Timothy was a friend of Paul. 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, and Philemon. All believers, all people that did the work under the apostles. He's writing to them and instructing them on how to deal with the churches, how to govern the churches. And govern means to run the church under their authority, because the apostles was chosen to spread the gospel, and the churches that was raised up, they needed people under them to take care of the flock, take care of the people, right? Then you have the general epistles that's just talking to these people. And you have Hebrews, James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter. Peter is an apostle. James is an apostle. And you have 1 John, 2 John, 3 John. John is an apostle as well. And he's also responsible for writing John, that gospel. And then you have Jude, who's an apostle. Then the book of Revelation is written by John, an apostle, right? So those are the books of the Bible, 66 books, okay? All right, and then we're going to wrap it up with this, our Split Kingdom series. We're going to go into our topic. All right, so we talking about Assad today, King Assad. King Assad, all right, which was a righteous king, okay? King Assad. So open up to 1 Kings. First Kings 15 and verse 8, right? 1 Kings 15 and verse 8.
Got it.
All right, we're going to read down 1 Kings 15 and verse 8. And it reads, And Abijam slept with his fathers. Abijam was the king that ruled before Assad, right? He's Assad's father. He was an unrighteous king. He was unrighteous. And Abijam slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, that's Jerusalem. And Asa, his son, reigned in his stead. And in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, reigned Asa over Judah. All right? So he was a king in the southern kingdom. Remember, we're talking about the split kingdom. So we're talking about right now the southern kingdom of Judah, and Asa is ruling over the southern kingdom of Judah. You understand that? Who's the king in the north, in the northern?
Rehoboam?
Nope, Rehoboam was the king of the south. Jeroboam.
Yeah.
See, that's why I said, now look, now read that again. So now it says, verse 9, in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel. So at this point, when it starts saying the king of Israel, it's talking about, because we're talking about the split kingdom. King Israel and Judah is not one. So Judah is the southern kingdom. They all Israel. They all come from Jacob. But now we're talking about the kingdom. And so when we're talking about the kingdom, well, Judah is the southern kingdom. Israel is the north, and Jeroboam is the king of the north. Do you know how Jeroboam became the king in the north? You remember that? When we talked, I know it's been some weeks.
Well, him fighting the battle?
Nope, he was. We'll have to go back. I can gloss over it a little bit, but Jeroboam became the king of the north because Solomon had sinned. Remember, Solomon sinned, and when Solomon sinned, the kingdom was split because of his sin. He sinned with land with 1,000 women. He had 1,000 women, 700 wives, 300 concubines that all worshiped other gods. The Most High was displeased with that, right? So the Most High, he didn't like that, and so what ended up happening was Jeroboam was chosen to rule over the 10 northern tribes of Israel. You see that? So that's what ended up happening. He ended up ruling over the 10 northern tribes of Israel. But then in turn, he himself became unrighteous. And he was worshiping other gods. He didn't want his people going to Jerusalem to worship there on the feast day. So he created 2 golden calves, right? And said, this is the God that brought you up out of Egypt. And made his people worship those 2 golden calves. Right? So make sure you remember that. We'll go back over it just as a refresher. I know it's been some time. Right, let's keep going. Verse 10. And 41 years reigned he in Jerusalem, talking about Assad. 41 years reigned he in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. Absalom was who?
Absalom was
David's son that tried to steal the kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 11, and Assad did that which was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, as did David his father. He did that which was right in the eyes of Yahuwah, so he was righteous. And he took away the Sodomites out of the land. What's a Sodomite?
Sodomite is another nation?
No. It's a homosexual.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And he took away, so he was cleansing the land of evil. In other words, right? He took away the Sodomites out of the land and removed all the idols that his fathers had made. So he kicked the Sodomites out of the land and removed all the idols that his fathers had made. Got rid of all the graven images. And also Maacah, his mother, even her, he removed from being queen because she had made an idol in a grove. So he wasn't a favor of persons. He wasn't a favor of persons. He removed his own mother for being queen. You see that? Because his mother was unrighteous. We have to have that same thing in us. If I'm unrighteous, you got to hold me accountable. You see that? He hold his own mother accountable by removing her from being the queen because she created the idol. The Most High is a jealous power, right? So he understood that she made an idol. And Assad destroyed her idol and burnt it by the brook Kidron. But the high places were not removed. Nevertheless, Assad's heart was perfect with Yahuwah all his days. And he brought in the things which his father had dedicated, and the things which himself had dedicated into the house of Yahuwah, silver and gold and vessels. And there was war between Assad and Baasha, king of Israel, all their days. So this is another king of the north after Jeroboam, right? We're going to get into Baasha. And there was war between Assad and Baasha, king of Israel, all their days. And Baasha, king of Israel, went up against Judah and built Ramah, that he might not suffer any to go out or to come in to Assad, king of Judah. Then Assad took all the silver and the gold that were left in the treasures of the house of Yahuwah and the treasures of the king's house, and delivered them into the hand of his servants. And King Assad sent them to Benadad, the son of Tabrinan, the son of Hezion, king of Syria, that dwelt at Damascus. So he's going to this other king that's not an Israelite and looking for help. Watch this. Saying, there is a league between me and thee, and between my father and thy father. So they was at peace. His father Abijam and and King Benadad's father was at peace, and they had a league. There was an agreement together, right? There's a league between me and thee, and between my father and thy father. Behold, I have sent unto thee a present of silver and gold. Come and break thy league with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may depart from me. So Benadad hearkened unto King Assad, and sent the captains of the host which he had against the cities of Israel, and smote Ejin and Dan and Abel Abel Beth Maacah, and all Sinarath with all the land of Naphtali. And it came to pass, when Baasha heard thereof, that he left off building of Ramah and dwelt in Tirzah. Then King Assad made a proclamation throughout all Judah. None was exempted. And they took away the stones of Ramah and the timber thereof, wherewith Baasha had done. So when he say he made a proclamation, he made it law to do something, right? So he made it law to take away the stones of Ramah, all right? It means that everybody had to do it throughout his whole kingdom. So if I'm in my house and I say, if I make a law about something, all right, then that applies to everybody under my house. You see what I'm saying? We reading 1 Kings. I've been doing something called the Split Kingdom series. And I'm going into all the different kings after the split. I started with Solomon after the split. Right now we in 1 Kings 15 and 22. Yep. And so that's what that is. You see what I'm saying? So Ramah and the timber thereof, wherewith Baasha had builded, and King Assad built with them Geba of Benjamin and Mizpah. Verse 23, the rest of all the acts of Assad and all his might and all that he did and the cities which he built, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So the Chronicles gives this as well, right? You can read this in Chronicles as well. Nevertheless, in the time of his old age, he was diseased in his feet. And let's keep reading. Verse 24, and Assad slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, his father. And Jehoshaphat, his son, reigned in his stead. Right? So Jehoshaphat was his son, which we'll go into. And he was very righteous. Okay? Yeah. So when we talk about King Assad, he what he did was he had the heart of after his father David, and he followed the laws like his father David, and he cleaned up the Sodomites out of the land. The only thing he kept was the high places, but his heart was after the Most Highs, right? Let me see something real quick, because it's a little more to Assad's story. Let me see something real quick, and we're gonna wrap it up. Go to 2 Chronicles 16 and 13.
Yeah.
16 and 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, start up some. Start at verse 7.
Got it.
All right. And it says, at that time, Hananiah the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said unto him, because thou hast relied on the king of Syria. So that's the part I wanted to touch too. That's just written in Chronicles, right? So King Asa was not supposed to rely on the King Benadad from Syria. So this is going to be the Most High kind of like punishing him slightly because of what he did. Watch this. Because thou hast relied on the king of Syria and not relied on Yahuwah your Elohim, therefore is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of thine hand. So that means he could have overtook the king of Assyria and ruled over them. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubims a huge host with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because thou didst rely on Yahuwah, he delivered them into thine hand. Right? Because they had went against the Ethiopians, and King Assad relied on Yahuwah, right? But after when it came to King Benadad, he didn't rely on Yahuwah. See, Yahuwah chose Israel to be his seed to rule in the land, in the world, and to be an example to other nations. He was choosing Israel at this time specifically, but at this time though, because the kingdom is split, under King Assad, Judah is the righteous, not necessarily the northern kingdom. Remember, they're unrighteous in their ways because they're committing idolatry and stuff like that, right? So, verse 9, for the eyes of Yahuwah run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong on the behalf of them whose heart is perfect toward him. Herein thou hast done foolishly, therefore from henceforth thou shalt have wars. Then Assad was wroth with the seer and put him in prison, for he was enraged with him because of this thing. And Assad oppressed some of the people the same time. So Assad started to operate unrighteously. He had a heart after the Most High, but he put the seer in jail because the seer was prophesying what the Most High sent him to do. You know what I'm saying? But he still overall was considered righteous. It's just he made certain mistakes, and he didn't have peace on all sides. He didn't start sinning. He didn't start breaking Yah's commandments, but it's just that he couldn't accept his correction. He didn't like that. He didn't like what the seer had said, which is a prophet, had said to him in regards to not being able to now rule over King Benadad and how he would have wars on all sides. But that didn't turn him away from the Most High. It just made him start doing unnecessary things like throwing the seer in prison and stuff like that. But all in all, he still was considered a righteous king, King Assad, right? And then also, let's see, let's read down some more, verse 12, and it says, and Assad in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet until his disease was exceeding great. And yet, in his disease, he sought not to Yahuwah, but to physicians. See, this is where he make an error at. Like, he is relying on physicians. He's not praying to the Most High about his diseased feet. You know what I'm saying? He should have went to the Most High about them feet. Right, you know? That's the only person that can really heal you. When we think we put, and to show you something about doctors, we put too much on doctors, when in all reality, we need to be praying to the Most High that he give them the wisdom to make decisions. You know, like if we about to go through surgery, we need to pray about that they can give us the best counsel in regards to our situation, whether it be cancer or whatever we're going through. It need to be the Most High we entreating first, right? And that's what he did not do. It shows that, you know what I'm saying? Verse 13, and Assad slept with his fathers and died in the 41st year of his reign. And they buried him in his own sepulchres, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed which was filled with sweet odors and diverse kinds of spices prepared for the apothecary's art. And they made a very great burning for him. So they still valued him because he still was righteous. He didn't sin, but he just made mistakes like not going to the Most High about his feet, and not going to the Most High about, you know, getting help to go against the northern kingdom of Israel. He went to King Benadad instead. You should never, which to show you should never rely on man for anything. You see what I'm saying? And with that, we're going to wrap it up. We will continue our Split Kingdom series next week. We'll pick back up with another king. Well, yeah, we're dealing with all of them. I just was dealing with King Assad. But yeah, I'm going to go into some more northern kingdom kings and all that. But yeah, that's dealing with the southern kingdom today. But I'm going to see what we'll go into. I'm going to probably try to do a northern kingdom king next week, because I think I've been doing, for the last couple weeks that I've been doing this, I've been focusing on the southern kingdom. So, yep. And with that, we're going to say Shabbat Shalom. We will see you all in class. Will be followed by praise and worship, and then today's main lesson. You all have a good one. Shabbat Shalom.